Shri Matre Namaha. In this universe, we have to learn everything from all beings. It may be movable or immovable. It may be human beings or creatures, because each and everyone has its own credibility. Therefore, we have to think, who is real Guru? Actually, Guru means, in Sanskrit it says, he who destroys darkness, means ignorance, is called Guru. Gushabdastvandakaarastvat rushabdasta nirodakaha. It means the letter Gu denotes ignorance. Ru denotes destroyer. That means destroyer of darkness called ignorance. That is, such a person is called Guru in our Vedic literature. Among them, we have to think, who is real Guru? That means he who teaches us, whether directly or indirectly, he is called a real Guru. Even each and every birds, animals, everything teaches us through their activities. We have to learn, we have to extract. Actually, teacher is not imposing knowledge. He is extracting the hidden treasure of knowledge from a student, from a prodigy child. That's why we have to seek a real Guru who can change our lives perfectly. Unless Guru, we cannot survive on this earth. So, we are in search of real Guru. Basing on this, today I took the topic of who is real Guru. Let us start with the prayer. Kirite nishesho lalate hutasho bhuje bhogirajo gale kalimacha tanau kamini asya tatulya deham न जाने न जाने न जाने न जाने न जाने. The Sanskrit word Guru is often mistranslated as a teacher. Teacher in Sanskrit is called Shikshak. A teacher is someone who informs and educates us. A teacher is supposed to ensure that we learn to read, write, and understand. Yet, a teacher has no obligation for the complete welfare of his students. He is focused on his specific subjects. A teacher is a professional. He teaches for his living. But Guru is way beyond an ordinary Shikshak. Guru is a mentor who inspires as well as nurtures. Unlike Shikshak, Guru is not a profession. Guru does not do his work in exchange for monetary or any other material gains. He is, to be honest, shuns the very idea of having something in return. He does what he does as is his duty and stays away from all the results. Guru is verily a sage, a beacon of inspiration for his disciples, especially when they are struck by crisis. However, Guru is also one from whom we learn wisdom. Vedic rishis profess that everything we desire, happiness and knowledge, including is deep within us, while Shikshak puts efforts to make us to understand that we want and we may not want. Guru introduces us to ourselves and instills in us the wisdom to seek, lead and enlighten ourselves. There are two interesting stories from Vedic literature that are worthy of recollection in understanding the deeper meaning of the word Guru. It is said that Adi Shankaracharya of Kaladi, a pioneer in the field of Advaita philosophy, once came across a Chandala while on his way to Hari Ghat in Varanasi. Hari Ghat means Harichandra Ghat for his bath. He, being aghast of the presence of an untouchable, told the latter to stay away from his sight. To Adi Shankaracharya's uttering dismay, the Chandala, I mean a kind of untouchable person, raised some pertinent questions from the same Advaita. He asked, "Whom are you telling to keep away?" Acharya, the fountainhead of all knowledge of Vedas and Upanishads. This body or the Atman, which resides in this body. Your body and mine are made of the same substance, as parts of varying sizes and colors are made of the same clay. How could such a body ask the other of the same element to stay away? Are they not part of the same illusion? Legend says that Chandala's words stunned Adi Shankaracharya. He realized that differentiation between one person to another come from the size and shape of the body or the state of mind. The Atman, however, is beyond all these things. Adi Shankara not just hailed the Chandala for showing him this practical side of Advaita philosophy that he himself had been preaching for long, but also offered his salutations and called him as his Guru. That is the greatness of Adi Shankara. Shankaracharya was so moved that he composed a poem entitled Manisha Panchakam. At the end of this poem, Shankaracharya declared, "One who looks at the creation from a non-dualistic viewpoint is my true teacher. Be he a Brahmin or a Chandala." Here, the great proponent of Advaita Vedanta verily declares that Guru can be of any caste, creed, or even species. If any more helps us in our endeavor to realize our true self and full potential, that individual being is verily our Guru. Yet another story worthy of being recollection in this perspective is that of Avadhuta Dattatreya. It is said that once King Yadu also Avadhuta Dattatreya in a forest and asked, "Sir, you are revered to be quite capable, energetic, and wise. Such as you are, why do you live in the forest, free from all desires, even though you have neither kith and kin, nor even a family? How could you be so blissful and self-contented?" The Avadhuta replied, "My contentment is because of my realization of the self, Atman. I have gained the necessary wisdom from the whole creation through 24 Gurus." Let us get the elaborated, detailed for us, for you and also. First, the earth. People plow, dig, and tread the earth without any respect. They light a fire on it. Yet, the Mother Earth does not deviate from its path of sustaining life. On the other hand, it shelters the very creatures which cause it harm and trample it under their feet. This attribute of the earth has made me realize that to be wise one must never deviate from one's vow of patience, love, and righteousness under any circumstances, and one should dedicate his life for the welfare of the living. So I therefore consider the earth as my first guru. Second, air. I observe that air is a pure and odorless, and it blows on both sweet and foul smelling things without any discrimination or preferences. Though it momentarily seems to take on the smell of its surroundings, in a short while it reveals its pristine quality. From this, I learned that a spiritual aspirant should live in the world unaffected by the dualities of life like joy and sorrow and by the object of the senses. Third one, sky. The soul is also like the sky, which is omnipresent. I have noticed that sometimes the sky gets thickly overcast or filled with dust or smoke. At sunrise and during the night, it apparently takes on different colors. But in fact, it ever retains its colorless self, and it is never touched or stained by anything. From this, I learned that a true sage should remain ever pure like the sky, untouched or unaffected by anything in the phenomenal universe in time, including his own physical processes. His inner being is totally free from emotional reaction to things that events even like space. Thus, I accepted the sky or the space as my third guru. Fourth one, fire. My fourth teacher is the element of fire. Sometimes it manifests itself as blazing flames, sometimes as smoldering embers covered by ash. But it is everyone, irrespective of his moral worth, and burns down his sins, and it remains the ever pure divinity. He is untainted by the sins of such devotees. So too, a sage of perfect realization should accept food of everyone, burn down his sins, and bless the giver. Though the fire has no specific form of its own, when it is associated with a fuel that burns, it assumes such apparent forms. So too, the true self, though formless, appears in the form of deities, human beings, animals, and trees when it is associated with the respective physical structures. The source of all forms in the universe, as also their end, remains ever mysterious. All the things are manifest only in between their origin and their end. The manifest fire transforms the various things it consumes into the same ash. So, too, the wisdom of self realization rejects the manifest forms and properties of things as illusion and realizes their own original essence as itself. Thus, the fourth element of fire is my fourth guru. Fifth, sun, S-U-N. My fifth guru is the sun god. Though the sun we see in our daily life is one, it appears as many when reflected by water in different vessels. Similarly, the one real self manifests itself as many cells of living creatures when reflected by their physical structures. As sun illuminates the many forms in nature to our visions. The sage too illuminates the true nature of all things to his devotees. 6.1 Pigeon. I have gained wisdom from a pigeon too. Once a pair of pigeons lived together on a tree. They bred their young and were bringing them up with deep affection and love. One day a hunter caught the young fledglings in a snare. The lady bird, which returned from the forest with food for its young ones, saw their plight and unable to leave them, she leaped in the snare to share their fate. Shortly after, the male pigeon turned up and, unable to bear the separation from its sweetheart, it too jumped in the snare and met its end. Reflecting on this, I realized how, even after being born as an intelligent human being, man is caught in the coils of possessiveness and brings about his own spiritual destruction. The self, which is originally free, when associated with the body sense, get identified with it and is caught in the endless cycle of birth, death, and misery. Thus, the pigeons are my sixth guru. 7th Python. The python is a sluggard, unwilling to move out briskly for its prey. It lies its larch and devours whatever creature it comes across, be it sufficient to appease its hunger. From this, I learned that the man in search of wisdom should refrain from running after pleasures and accept whatever he gets spontaneously with contentment. Thus, the python was my seventh guru. 8th Sea. Contemplating the marvelous nature of the ocean, I have gained much wisdom. Any number of overflowing rivers may join it, yet the sea maintains its level. Just as the sea never crosses its threshold on the beach, the wise one never transgresses the highest standards of morality under pull of passions. Like the unfathomable ocean, his true nature and depths of his wisdom cannot be easily comprehended by anyone. The ocean which has taught me this is my eighth guru. 9th Moth. Moth. I often see that the moth is tempted by fire to jump in it and get burnt down. So too, the unthinking man is enticed by the illusionary pleasures of the senses and thus gets caught in the ceaseless cycles of birth and death. On the other hand, the wise one, when he catches even a glimpse of fire of wisdom, leaves everything aside, lives in it, and burns down the illusion of being a limited self. Thus, the moth was my ninth guru. 10th one is elephant. Human beings raise a stuffed elephant in the forest. The wild tusker mistakes it for a mate, approaches it, and then skillfully bound in fetters by the cunning human beings. So too, the unregenerate man is tempted by the opposite sex and gets bound by the fetters of infatuation. The seekers after liberation should learn to be free from lust. So the elephant was my 10th guru. 11th, ant. The ant stores up lots of food materials which it neither eats nor gives away in charity to any other creature. In consequence Other more powerful creatures are tempted to plunder the ants. So too, the man who lays by treasures of miserly material things become a victim of robbery and murder. But the ant has something positive to teach us too. It is a tireless worker and is never discouraged by any number of obstacles and setbacks in its efforts to gather its treasure. This noble truth taught by little ant, I regard it as my 11th Guru. 12th one is fish. The fish greedily swallows the bait and is at once caught by the angle hook. From this, I realized how one meets his destruction by the crawling for delicious food. When the pellet gets caught in the ceaseless cycles of birth and death. On the other hand, the wise one, when he catches even a glimpse of the fire of wisdom, leaves everything aside, leaps in it, and burns down the illusion of being a limited self. Thus, the moth was in my 9th Guru. Next, we can see Pingala, the 13th Guru that has awakened. My spirit is a prostitute named Pingala. One day, she eagerly awaited a client in the hope that he would pay her amply. She waited and waited till late in the night. When he did not turn up, she was at last disillusioned and reflected thus: Alas, how stupid I am, neglecting the divine spirit within, who is of the nature of bliss eternal, foolishly waited for a sensualist who inspires my lust and greed. So I shall expend myself on the self, unite with him, and win eternal joy. Through such a repentance, she attained blessedness. Besides reflecting on its obvious purport, I also realized that a spiritual aspirant should likewise reject the lure of lesser spiritual powers, which are mere byproducts of sadhana. I learned that the temptation to secure things from the other's hands are the seeds of misery. That a renunciation of these is the sole means of realizing infinite joy. Arrow maker. Once I observed an arrow maker who was totally absorbed in molding a sharp arrow. He grew so obviously of the all else and did not even notice a royal pageant that passed away. This slight awakened me to the truth that such single-minded, all-observing contemplation of the self spontaneously emanates of the world. It is the sole secret of success in spiritual discipline. Thus, the arrow maker is my 14th Guru. Now, 15th one. Playful boy. How? Little boys and girls know neither honor nor dishonor. They do not nurse a grudge or a prejudice against anyone. They do not know what is their own or what belongs to others. Their happiness, their innate creativity, and they do not need any external objects or conditions to be happy. So I realize that the sage of perfect enlightenment is also such. A playful boy thus happened to be my 15th Guru. 16th, moon. Moon. Of all the things in nature, the moon is unique. It appears to wax and wane during the bright and dark fortnights. In fact, the lunar globe ever remains the same. In this, it is like the self of the man. While a man appears to pass through the stages of infancy, boyhood, youth, maturity, and old age, his real self remains unchanged. All enhancements pertain only to the body and not to the self. Again, the moon only reflects the light of the sun but has no such of its own. So, too, the soul or mind of the moon is only reflects the light of awareness of the real self. Having taught this truth, the moon became my 16th Guru. 17. Honeybee. Honeybee wanders from flower and without hunting them in the least draws honey. So too, a spiritual seeker should study all the holy scriptures but retain in his heart only that which is essential for his spiritual practice. Such is the teaching I imbibed from my 17th Guru. 18th. Deer. Deer. It is said that deer are very fond of music and that poachers employ it to lure them before hunting them. From this, I learned that the passions and sensual desires will soon bog down a spiritual aspirant who has a weakness for merely secular music, till he ultimately loses whatever spiritual progress he was achieved earlier. The deer taught me this truth is my 18th Guru. 19. Bird of prey. A little bird of prey is my 19th Guru. One day I saw one such carrying away a dead rat. Many other birds like crows and eagles attacked it, now kicking on its head and again pecking on its sides in their endeavor to knock up the prey. The poor bird was very much pestered. At last it wisely let his prey fall and all other birds rushed after it. Thus, freeing itself from so much botheration, it resigned in relief. From this, I learned that a man who runs after worldly pleasure will soon come into clash with his fellow beings, who to run for the same one must face much strife and antagonism. If he learns to conquer his craving for worldly things. And now, 20th one, maiden. Once I observed a family visit a maiden's house seeking her hand in marriage for their son. At that time, her mother was away from the home. So, the maiden herself had to entertain the guests with respectfulness. He was afraid that he gets unhappy for having caused her so much trouble. As a Hindu maiden, she is not expected to remove all the bangles on her hand at any time. So she kept two or on each hand and returned at the rest. Even then they were knocking against each other and making noise. So she kept only one bangle on each hand this time, and she could finish her task in quiet. Reflecting on the other side, I realized that what several spiritual practices can be pursued with a strong mindfulness effort. Thus, a maiden happiness to be my 20th Guru. Here, 21st, serpent. I observed that a serpent never builds a dwelling for itself. When white ants have raised an ant hill for themselves, similarly, worldly people must endure many hardships in raising houses for themselves while a reclusive monk lives in them, or he lives in old dilapidated temple or underneath shady trees. The serpent molts, leaving off his old skin. So too, at the end of his life, yogi leaves his body deliberately and in full of awareness of his own true self, and she is not frightened by the phenomenon of death. On the other hand, he eats of his old body as happily as he does the put out class and dawns neurons. Thus my 21st Guru, spider. The spider is my 22nd Guru. It wins its web from the thread in the form of fluid. After some time, it gathers of the web into itself. The Supreme projects the whole creation out of itself, and after some time withdraws it into itself at the end of the time of dissolution. The individual soul to eclipse. Now, caterpillar, 23rd. The caterpillar is also one of the teacher of mine in wisdom. The wasp carries its caterpillar to a safe corner and encloses it up in its most and goes on buzzing about it. The young caterpillar is so frightened by the incessant buzzing that becomes things of anything like else use than the buzzing wasp. Through such intermittent contemplation, for too long grows up into a wasp. In a like fashion, a true disciple is also earned and overawed by the spiritual omniscience of his own Guru, that he cannot think of anyone other than him. Though such contemplation, he soon blossoms into a great spiritual master himself. The caterpillar is this my 23rd Guru, 24. Water. Water is my 24th Guru. It coordinates thus the sustains innumerable trees and all creatures, beings. It is never proud of itself. On the other hand, it humbly seeks the lowest of places. The sage too should likewise bestow health, peace, and joy to every one creature that resort to kill everything in human stature to him. Yet he should ever live as human, blessed of nature's creation. Shekanthay Kalyana Nidhe Nidhram Sri Venkateswara Srinivasa Mangalam Mangalam Sarva Pradachara Brahma Sarvesha Guru Acharya Yastu Mangalam.